Okay. Welcome, everybody, and hello. Welcome to the PMI Northeast Ohio Chapter's Tech Thursday webinar. We meet once a month on Thursdays to go through talking about technology in project management. And today's topic is on the new Microsoft project and bridging project management and work management with Prasanna Davi. So we're very excited about today's topic, so let's get into it. So as I mentioned, we meet every Thursday. We meet once a month on the third Thursday, and we focus on project management tools and techniques. So far, we've had a couple really great sessions, and we hope to continue providing useful content that gives value to the people who attend and to the PMI community in Northeast Ohio. We have a webinar scheduled for next month already. That is on April 16th. That webinar is going to be on creating brilliant dashboards with Tableau for project managers. So that is a new content that we're working with a speaker on, creating Tableau dashboards. So it's a new tool that we've not covered yet. We've focused a lot on Microsoft tools. So this brings something else into the loop as well. And I'm sure a lot of people are really excited about learning about Tableau and seeing what it also has to offer. As you can see, these are topics that we have we've gotten feedback from the community on. The community filled out a survey after each presentation, and that's very useful for us. We got feedback on users wanted more information on how to use Microsoft Teams, and we just had a webinar with Dux the past month on Microsoft Teams, and we've also gotten some feedback on the new Microsoft Project tool, which is what we are covering this month. We've also gotten a lot of feedback on users wanting to learn about dashboards for project management, and that's what our focus is going to be on the next month. So the registration is available now online. You can go and go to PMI Northeast Ohio's website and register for that. And just a reminder that if you have a PMP or PGMP, you are also eligible for one technical PDU, and those are provided towards the end of the presentation. So stick around, and we'll share those with you. Just also as a reminder, if you want to ask a question or share a comment during the presentation, feel free to use the chat option, and we can answer any questions that you might have. We'll also be recording this webinar, and once the recording is available, we'll post it on the chapter website and make it available to all of the users. And like I mentioned, the surveys at the end of the presentations are very useful. They've given us really great ideas for topics over the coming months, and we hope to continue receiving feedback. So when you get that email, please make sure to fill out the survey and share some of your thoughts and what topics you would be interested in learning about. So as I mentioned, today we have Prasanna Davi. He works very closely with me. I know Prasanna very well. He is also very well known across the project management community. He's been very involved in the Northeast Ohio chapter as well. Over the past 15 years, he's worked in several organizations in the area of project and portfolio management, and he's worked primarily in processes and tools. So he's a great speaker to have on this series because we primarily focus on the tools and techniques. So he has a lot of experience in that, and we're excited to see what he has to share with us. This is not new to him. He has presented before. He was at the PMI Global Conference in 2017, and he's done many events throughout the years. He's also been awarded the MVP award every year since 2014 for his contributions in the community. So he is very well versed in the area of Microsoft Project, and he knows he's a subject matter expert when it comes to these tools. He also blogs very regularly, so you can go to his website, see what Prasanna is talking about, and stay up to date with him. So without any further ado, I will pass it over to Prasanna, and he can share some of his thoughts on the new Microsoft project.
All right, thank you, Awais. Welcome, everyone. So let me share my screen, and then, so Awais, you need to end your sharing. Okay. All right, so let's get started. I see a lot of great attendance today, probably because everyone of us is working from home and less distractions, right? So hopefully everybody is staying safe. Everybody is doing the self-quarantine and social distancing with every new, uh, whether it's good or bad, we always get a new buzzword. So it's a social distancing this time. Hopefully everybody is staying safe. Okay. So without much further ado, let's go get started. So before I get started, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. This is obviously, if you connect with me on LinkedIn, there are some people I already know from before on this webinar. So I just want to make sure that all these opinions are mine. So I'm not representing my employer here or Microsoft. So just wanted to put it out there. Okay. So if you're not seeing my picture enough on the previous slides, here is one more. Just wanted to give you a different picture, and I can assure you I don't look like that picture anymore. It's at least 10 years old, but I really love this picture, so I keep using it. um, okay, so if anybody has any questions after this session, anybody has further clarifications, please feel free to reach out to me. One of the reasons I do this is because I'm a technology enthusiast. I try to like to keep up to date with everything that's going on the forefront of technology, specifically focused towards project management. So I will try my best to help you out if there are any questions. If I can't, obviously, I will try and connect to other subject matter experts who know better than me in some of these topics. Okay. All right. So what is our agenda for today? So there is going to be a start and there's going to be an end. That's a relief. So we'll get started with a few basics of work management and contrast it with what we're talking about as project management. What is all that? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about why there is a new version of project. So some of you probably, when you're registering this for this webinar, you're like, what's the big deal? Microsoft Project gets the new version comes up every a year or two. What's the big deal on this one? Um, you will see. You will see why this requires a webinar to talk about. Why it's not just a incremental feature update. It's a brand new product. So we'll talk about that. And I have quite a bit time dedicated for demos and examples. I'll walk you through all that. And finally, we'll open up for Q&A. Feel free to ask all your questions even between. We'll take logical pause points. So post your questions in chat, like I always mentioned. So that's the high level agenda. And then we'll see where this takes us. Okay. So let's get into what is work management. Okay. Um, that's a mouthful. So work management is a set of software products and services that apply blah, 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 right? So you can read the slide. Um, that comes from Gartner. Okay, so in plain English, work management is a combination of processes that generate information. Information could also lead into tasks. Information could also lead into action items, whatever. But processes that generate information, and the products and services, sometimes it's software, sometimes it's not, that organize the movement of that information, right? So if you take this definition and apply to everything you're doing, there it is, you have work management defined for you, okay? Um, so some of the challenges in today's work management, let me contrast that with project management, okay? Why do we talk about like that? So today we have more and more people managing projects. You don't really need to be a title holder of a project manager to be handling projects. That notion went away a long time ago. People are trying to manage work, manage projects, whether it's doesn't matter which methodology, which framework, but by PMI's definition, if it has a start and end with a very defined goal, of the defined deliverable, then it's a project. So people are trying to do that. The problem is it's not consistent. There is varying levels of maturity, varying levels of how you get things done, various levels of methodology framework that's being used, etc., etc. Right? Work is also being managed at different levels. So you could have a portfolio manager who is looking at different things from the overall organization perspective versus a project manager who is looking at it completely differently versus an operational manager or a resource manager who is looking at the same information in a completely different manner. They're functional managers, line managers, different titles, different roles, but the work is being managed differently, right? Um, it is also the work has become more collaborative. I mean, this remote working arrangement that came upon us kind of proved that. So we are forced to collaborate more. We are forced to put a lot more effort into things like WebEx, Microsoft Teams, if you're using that, all kinds of tools and techniques. But it is still messy, right? So you send a chat message on Teams, you don't know where that's that's not referenced anywhere in your project schedule. That's not referenced anywhere in your actual action item. That doesn't come back to your Outlook. So it's still messy. It's still not connected. It's disjointed. And you can take this and apply to any of the tools that you're using. So the tool set is so disparate that the work is still getting done collaboratively, but it is messy. And then finally, the macro picture versus micro picture. So this comes back to the second point I was talking about. So um, there are several ways to manage your projects or work. The problem is there are certain sections of your organizations are looking for a big picture. Your CEOs, your executives, your executive teams, your portfolio managers, they are looking for a big picture of your entire all the work that's happening in the organization. The project teams, the project managers, the resource managers, the resources themselves, they are looking for micro picture. They are looking for things like, what do I do next? What is on my plate to get done this week? Um, People are using the tools like Jira. The portfolio PMO or the portfolio organization is using tools like Project Server, Project Online, or other portfolio management tools, Clarity PPM, whatever. People are at the resource level are using tools like Jira, which is more of a task management tool, but there is no integration between both, without putting a lot more effort into it. Organizations have put into energy into building those integrations, but there's no out of the box seamless integration between all among all these. So that those are the current work management challenges. So at this point, what I would ask is, Awais, if you can, we want to just do a quick poll of what you people think of what your challenges are. So basically, if you could start a poll, we'll allow just 30 seconds just to see, take a pulse of the group attending today. Ramesh, do we have the survey results?
Looks like we're having a little bit of issues with the polling, but we do have people who typed in the chat saying that they see messy collaboration, using Jira as the common challenges with project management. We'll work on getting the the poll working. The other comments have been the micro versus macro topic that you discussed being another reoccurring challenge for some of the users.
Okay. All right. So that's good information. So most of you agree with me based on what I have seen and what you are feeling in your day-to-day work. Okay. So let's move on. So current tool set scenario. Please understand, obviously this webinar is dedicated to Microsoft tools, which is why I'm discussing Microsoft tool set. But you could take this and apply to other tools that you are using today. Okay. So on one hand, we have the project and portfolio management, which I think of as a macro picture, the big picture. We have tools like Microsoft Project that many of you are familiar with. If you are on the enterprise version, you're either using a project online or project server. And most of us are using just plain SharePoint to kind of build project sites and where people store project information and then reporting on it. On the task management side, at a personal level, I would say this is for on an individual basis or our smaller teams, we use Outlook for managing our tasks. We use, can't forget Excel. I mean, that's the king of task management. So, and then we use Wunderlist, OneNote, and so, I mean, not to forget SharePoint, right? So the problem here is, like I was explaining, there is no connectivity between these two. Almost always, it's always manual. So you probably will generate a project plan in Microsoft Project. Then somebody else will take that and split it into tasks in Jira. But then the update on Jira will have to be sent back to project on a manual basis unless you are building integrations back and forth. So it's mostly manual. Okay. So now let's talk about Microsoft, right? So what Microsoft has been trying to do, they have been doing a lot of research over the last few years with Gartner and a few other organizations. They recognize this gap. Okay, this is all their tool set, and still they think that they recognize that there is a gap that is easy. They need a tool or set of tools that is easy enough to use for an average user, but also still provides the big picture, right? And connects everything in terms of collaboration and whatnot. So so what they have been doing over the last few years is introducing slowly few tools that some of you may be already familiar with. If you're not, they are good ones to look up and see if they will apply to your organization. Okay. Um, so the first one they introduced a couple of years ago was Planner. Okay, so if you're not used Planner, Planner is a very lightweight task management tool between teams. It is very useful for ad hoc teams, smaller teams. You can build plans where you have planner boards, dragging things back and forth. You can do progress updates, etc., etc. But Planner is by itself shortcoming if you want to manage an entire project on it. For example, Planner does not support dependencies. You cannot connect tasks with one another. Planner does not have baselining, for example. Planner does not have a lot of other things that may or may not be necessary for depending on your size of organization. So Microsoft's goal was not to make it so difficult, complicated of a tool that people will find back in the same scenario like they are today. Okay. Um, the next thing that got introduced today, actually today is supposedly the birthday of Microsoft Teams. 3 years ago, it got released. Um, so if you have used Teams, you understand a lot of people on the webinar might be also using Slack. So if you have used Slack, think of Teams as a similar software, but more integrated with your Office 365 suite of products. So it has integrations into virtually every tool you see on the screen. Okay, so Teams is supposed to provide that platform where everybody can come together, collaborate, and it has hooks into Planner that will bring information back and forth. So people, for an average user, can log into Teams, collaborate, chat, upload documents, update Planner, and you could take the Planner board and kind of use it as your overall bigger picture information. Okay, for the lack of better tool. Now, I'm not going into deep into Planner and Teams because that was what our previous webinar was. There is recording available. So if you have more questions on it, if that is what you're curious on, I encourage all of you to go check out our YouTube channel for PMI and check out a recording there. Okay. Now, even with all these, so there is one more thing missing. Like I was explaining, Planner doesn't do everything that a project manager wants. It doesn't do work breakdown structures. It doesn't. So there are several shortcomings while there are a lot of great things. So that's where Microsoft came up with a new product called Project for Web. Okay, so this is a completely re-thought out, re-envisioned tool from Microsoft. Um, so the idea is this should be a cloud-based, very easy to use. If you have used tools like Asana, if you have used tools like Workfront, tools that have enabled a collaborative, modern work management, okay, while also supporting all the nice features that project users have gotten used to using Microsoft Project, right? So that's what I'm going to talk about today, and I will walk through a few slides. So right now, Project for Web is what we were calling a version 1. So most of the features are there, some are not there. I'll point them out as I'm doing the demo. But the eventual goal is for everything to connect seamlessly. Okay, break down the walls between portfolio management and task management. Okay, and the idea is Project Server or Project Online, the way it exists today, will eventually be phased out. So, and at some point, Microsoft Project too. Uh, Disclaimer: there is no time frames on any of this. If you go to Microsoft website, they say they are working on a plan and all that. So don't panic. Don't go out and uh, similar to the toilet papers gate. Don't go out and delete your Microsoft project. Okay, so it's a long ways away. But the idea is that, but Project for Web will be the go-to tool for all your project management while still collaborating at a task management level and all the other tools. Okay, on the task management side, also there are some changes happening. While not completely relevant to our topic, I just wanted to highlight that. So Wunderlist is going away by I think this end of this May of this year. It is being replaced by a new tool called Microsoft To Do. Okay, here is a cool part. Wunderlist was a standalone app. It did not integrate with. I don't know how many people actually use Wunderlist. I use that very heavily. To Do is an enterprise task management tool. So when we talk about integration, tasks you create in Planner, tasks you create in Project for Web are going to appear in To Do. Those tasks will appear eventually within Teams so that you can update it there. So it's a one seamless ecosystem. No matter which tool you are using, you are operating out of the same information while still being able to use the tool of your choice. Okay, so you don't have to keep switching tools. Just like people using Jira, for example, I don't think they'll be too happy switching over to something like Microsoft Project. But if you can give them a tool that will both operate like Microsoft Project and Jira, I'm pretty sure that's a good business case for to move them over, right? So that's a thought process around it. And all of this is supported by extensibility, what we are calling extensibility tools like Power Automate, used to be called Microsoft Flow, which can connect different systems. If you have used IFTTT, stands for if this, then that, which can connect, if I do this, make that happen, that kind of a tool. Power Apps is Microsoft's version for enabling business user to build apps that do smaller things and in an app format. Okay, and then Power BI is obviously your enterprise reporting tool. Power BI has been there for a while. It is a huge hit. We'll see some of the Power BI dashboards that are included with Project for Web as part of this demo. Okay, so I'm going to take a deep breath. Are there any questions away so far?
We did not have any questions yet, but we have had a couple comments just talking about the drawbacks of some of the web functionalities, the Microsoft Office web tools, and some of the drawbacks that it might have.
Yep. The good points. Well, I don't know the exact comment itself, but I can relate to some of those. The fact that you are still using the desktop apps shows the fact that the web apps are not up to par. But trust me, one of the things always mentioned is I am what we call a part of a community called Microsoft Valuable Professionals. Um, so this allows us to kind of interact with the product teams from Microsoft a little bit closely than a regular user. So I can tell you from inside, they are very actively working. There is so much stuff planned to be released, so many features. It blows my mind away. I just came out of a summit that they held over the last 3 days, and there are so many new features that they are planning. Unfortunately, I cannot share any of that because all of that is in NDA right now. But but trust me, the goal for them is to make the web apps as functional as desktop apps and more. Okay, so it will take time because these are some like things like Microsoft Excel that they have huge histories, huge fan bases. So changing even the icon it instigates a million discussions. So give them the benefit of doubt. The product team is very aware of this feedback. There is something called user voice. So if you really need some features, I would encourage for you to go to user voice and vote for these features, which we'll talk about again when we talk about Project for Web. Okay. All right. Coming back to our topic. So let's talk about Project for Web. So before I talk about, I wanted to kind of give you a history of Microsoft Project. Okay. I won't bore you to death with all this, talking about every single version. I just want to highlight the fact that if you look at it, Microsoft Project, the first version got released in 1984. Project for Web is its latest entry into this timeline, and that is released in 2019. So there is 25 years worth of history there, or maybe more. Actually, maybe I'm calculating wrong. So that's 35 years. So 35 years worth of history there, right? So um, but until Project Online, the attempt was to keep it all seamless, keep it all, the feature adding was incremental. So project was still there. You can still sync it with the online version. But a couple of years ago, when we were called to this summit that I was talking about, um, when they showed us the first versions, we were like, what the heck? This doesn't look like Microsoft Project at all. And that was the key. So the Microsoft felt that the market needed something much more collaborative, helps something that is much more seamless. Okay. Um, so what exactly is it? Okay, so I think I harped on this enough. It's a cloud-based work and project management tool. It actually, so when we talk about Project for Web, there are three major components, what we call Project Home. There is something called a roadmap that they released a year and a half ago. And then the third one, the actual web-based project scheduling tool that I'm going to talk about, okay? So Project Home, so this is the place where their idea is you should be able to see all the projects that you're working on, regardless of where it is coming from in this list. Okay, it's a simplified interface that you can see all your projects, recent projects, etc. Okay, nothing more to it. This one is very interesting, project roadmaps. If you're not tried this, if you have Project Online today, you should try this. So how many times have you been asked by your executive to give a high-level portfolio? But let's say you're planning a program. Let's say you're planning or you just want to give a portfolio overview, overlook. Maybe some of your teams are using other tools, Azure DevOps. If you are heavily into development, maybe your teams have maintaining projects in few other tools. Okay, so this is a way for you to build a quick timeline that will sync with all these tools and say, hey, here is what everything is going on across the board for this program or portfolio. And that's where we see most use for this. Generally for portfolio and program planning. This is not a task-based planning, all the kind of you can use it. But it's then you would probably use the project schedule itself, right? So this is where the project and program and portfolio management is where this roadmaps shine. Okay, so if you're not, I'm not going to go into depth in this. If we really need this, put it in your survey results. If we really need an in-depth review of roadmap, I can walk you through it. There is a ton of material out there. My fellow MVPs and all my peers in this field have already put a lot of material on it. Just Google for it. You will find a ton of material there. Okay. All right. Now let's actually get into the real tool we're talking about. Okay, so I'm going to jump in and open my browser. Okay. All right, so the link you would go to, if you have Office, so this is part of Office 365 suite. So if you have Office 365 today, and if you have a plan called Project Plan 3 or Project Plan 5, you already have access to this, everything I'm showing today. If you're not sure, the easiest way to test is go to project.microsoft.com, and that should bring up a screen like this. If it doesn't, then means either you don't have a license, or you don't have the right license, or you have not been assigned a license. So maybe you should just talk to your admin team and say, hey, I am already using Project Online. How can I get access to this? Um, so this is the project home I was talking about. So it will list all your projects. If you are using projects, I know some of you are still using Project Online, part of Office 365. So if you want to use that, you can just click on that and you can go there. That will take you back to the legacy Project Online. Okay. Um, from here, you can actually create a new roadmap or create a new blank project. So I'm going to go ahead and click on new blank project. Okay. So that will bring up a grid. It looks almost like a blank screen. Okay, so that is the beauty of this. The goal for this tool, I want you to remember, is the main audience is people who are not Microsoft project experts. Okay, people who have not studied every nuance of constraints and dependencies and durations and task types. And if you know all that, great, because that will really help for you to build a proper schedule. And if you are, but this is more geared towards people who want to plan work to a certain degree of fidelity without having to worry about every single nuance of that tool. Okay, and that's where the world is going towards. It's all about simplistic tools, simplified work management, so that the tool doesn't take up your time, right? So okay, so when I created this project, you can see the project. I mean, it brought up a screen. It didn't even ask me for a project name, and so you can see it started by Untitled Project. So change the name of the project. All you have to do is click on that, and if I click on, and it will bring up a pane that I can add a project name. So I'm going to say demo for PMI and EO. Okay. It will pick up my name as a project manager because I created it. You can change it if you later if you want it. You can put a start date and that will decide based on duration. So I'm going to leave all that as default for now. Okay. So that is the dynamical updates the project name right there. Okay. So building your schedule is as easy as it's a grid. So you can start typing in. I'll say define scope. Uh, don't worry, I'm not going to sit here and type my entire project schedule here. So just we'll switch over to a different project schedule in a minute. Okay. So define scope, define design. Okay, define functional specs. Okay, define tech specs. Okay, so you can see it's not asking me for any duration. It's not assigning any default stuff. You can quickly build this task list. Okay, you have the regular. So you can. I'm going to insert another task. You do have the regular summary tasks, the work breakdown structure. So how do I do it? I can click here and say make subtask. Okay, so there it made subtask. I can do that for multiple tasks and say I'm going to insert another here and say design. Okay. Now I can promote this subtask to make it a summary task, and then I can move this to I can do bulk, so I can do more than one at a time. Okay, so it is very easy to build this. There's no pre-requirements. There is nothing that really need to be there before you can start. Okay, now let's talk about assign to. Okay, this is interesting. Now remember the goal for this was the seamless integration, right? If you are familiar with Office 365, the security methodology over Office 365 has slowly shifted to what we call groups, Office 365 groups, right? So you can use that to control permissions, access, so on and so forth across multiple applications. So if I start typing names here, so I can type in, so let's say, that's okay. So it is not allowing me to assign in resource to a summary task, which if any scheduling enthusiasts over there will feel happy that we don't assign people to summary tasks anymore. So um, so I have resources, but what did I do? So as soon as I try to add the resource, it's asking me something. What is it saying? It's saying, do you want to create a group or do you want to add to an existing group? If I want to add an existing group, I can add to any of the groups there. Now, group can be, for example, you are an IT department for your company, and you already have a group from which you consume resources, or within the IT department you have a testing group and you want to make a small group out of that and being able to assign people from that list, right? So think of it as building a project team, but much more simplified. Everybody who is using Microsoft Project today knows they are in conjunction with Project Server or Project Online today. Remember, they have to go into resource tab, you have to click on it, say build team, drag and drop resources, etc., etc. You don't have to do that anymore. You can do everything on the fly. Okay. For now, I'm going to just say create a new group. Okay. So I'm going to say create and assign. Okay. Now I can drag that resource. So I can add more than one resource to that. Obviously, this one I cannot assign because it's a summary task. I'm going to say, okay, so one more resource. Okay. And so this member is not part of this project. So the system is asking, do you want me to add it to the group? Okay, yes, assign and add. Now you can add more than one resource to a particular given task. So I assigned 2 people here. Okay. If you're not a fan of, okay, if it's going to prompt me for every new resource, why can't I just build my team first? You can do that. So if you click on the group members here, so you can build all the people here that you need that in that group, and then you can just assign all of them. Okay. And then now you can assign Russell Crowe here. Okay, so all right, so pretty modern interface, pretty easier way to assign resources. You would not believe in all my years of working with Microsoft Project or Project Server how many times people asked, why can't I just type the name? Why do I have to build this team? There was never a good answer to that. It's like, okay, yes, that's how the tool is built. If you want to use an enterprise resource, that's what it is. The good thing about this is this security group will also work across teams. Let's say you build a new team for this project, you can use the same group. Let's say you build a planner board for this project to take care of the miscellaneous tasks, you can use the same group. You don't have to create this group again and again. You can reuse the same group across multiple apps. Okay, duration. So obviously you can add durations. So let's say 1 day, 2 days, whatever. Some of you are wondering, where is my start and finish? Where is my work hours? Where are all these columns? So you can add the columns here. So you can see there is percentage complete. You can add effort. Okay. You can add start and you can add finish. Okay. So, and there are a few other things that is depends on. So dependencies. So this is where this tool shines, because Planner already has all this flexibility of assigning resource and all that, but the dependencies, the effort estimates, the work, the roll-ups, the work breakdown structure, that's where this starts. So underlying this is the same scheduling engine that is powering Project Online. So it's not up to par with everything that the previous scheduling engine does, but they are modeling based on the same thing. Okay. All right, so obviously from a calendar standpoint, there's 8 hours, so you can assign a start and finish date. You can say the duration is 2 weeks, okay, or 1 day or 10 days, whatever, right? So there is some discussion going on with the task types and effort-driven versus not effort-driven. Again, remember, this is for people managing projects that are not very heavy schedule intensive, right? Okay, so now you can add dependencies, right? So you can say, okay, this task is dependent on, let's say 2. Okay, so I can it will bring up the task name. You can do that. This task is dependent on 3. Okay, you can also do the bulk dependencies that we generally do. And if you do this and say and right click, it will say add dependency, and then you have added a dependency to all these tasks. Okay, so all the flexibility is still there. You can change the effort if that's what you're estimating. You can make that 15 hours if you want, and then the duration will change accordingly. Okay. Now, changing their calendar templates. Let's say your company only works 7 hours a day, not 8 hours. Let's say you have a different start and different end dates. Those all can be changed, but they require a little bit of background behind the scenes work using Power Apps. So I'm not going to go into that detail today, but if you have any questions, I can I can try and help you out or connect you to the right person. Okay. All right. So this is great. So we got all this. Then you can mark your percentage complete. So I'm going to say 50% complete, and that will show up. 25% complete, that will show up. So it has a visual indicator. Um, you can also see that there is a color coding going on here. So if I say the start date, so let me zero out the progress on this, and then I'll change the start date to say 3/15/20. Okay. You can see that overdue tasks are automatically highlighted. Okay. So so there is color coding going on already. If you are past slipping, you can easily see that. If you are the dependencies all work. Okay. So this is what is called the grid view. Okay. So some people will like this kind of a thing because this resembles Microsoft project screens. There are a few other things that are up my sleeve to show you, but let me take a quick pause and see if there are any questions so far.
Yeah, we've had a couple of questions come in. So I will start with the first one. Nikki is asking, can you import existing project files?
So Microsoft is working on that. They don't have a clear path yet, but at least on their blog, they say they are working on some kind of a native migration tool when ready. So I don't know. I don't have a time frame of when that will be ready. But until then, it might be you could do something with Flow, which is Power Automate, or you could manually copy paste them. That's so. It's unfortunately right now that's the status. But don't worry, there will be a solution soon.
Okay. We have another question from Catherine. She is asking, does everybody in the group need a project online license even to view the schedule?
Very good question. Yes, as of today, yes. The feedback has been given to Microsoft saying that might be a deterrent. So I believe they are looking into it, but I don't know which direction that will go. This is similar to current scenario where the project online, you need a viewer license, a team member license to even look at the project data. So it's not too different from that.
Okay, and we also have another question from Chuck who is asking, how would a PMO build and manage project templates?
That's the good question. So like I said, remember there are some few shortcomings. It's not on par with what you have right now, but it is being worked upon. That's all I can share at this point. Okay, so the ability to templatize is not there yet, but there are solutions already published by some of my fellow MVPs where you can take snapshots of existing projects and create new projects. So you can take that solution and kind of build your own Power App to um, store copies of templates and use them. An integrated native solution is being worked upon. I don't have any time frame or any commitments there. Okay, so let me actually level set on this one. So Aves, are all of the questions, or do we have more?
We have a couple more, but do you want to stop? Do you want to answer a few
Yeah,
more?
let me go through. We are already at 12:45, so I don't want to take anybody's time for granted. So let me show some more cool things, and if we still have time, we'll take questions. If not, we will respond back via email. Okay. All right. So the next thing is I would like to show the timeline view. So for people who love Gantt charts, okay. So this is what we're calling a visual planner, which is a little bit. It is a Gantt chart, but it is much more customizable, much more free to use Gantt chart. So I can actually let me add a duration here, so that way we can write and say 3 days. Okay. All right, So let me go back to timeline. Okay, so now I can actually drag and drop. So I can increase the duration directly on the screen. I can actually connect these two visually. So if you are using this as a visual planner, this is very feasible. As soon as I saw this for the first time, in my mind, there were so many use cases. You don't even would have to use for one project. You could build a project of projects for your portfolio and then visually plan all that, right? So albeit it will be a little bit manual, but still the solution is there. So you can, this will be much more nicer to use visually and to kind of drag and drop, look at what is overlapping what, and what's dependent on what. And if you can write a Power App flow to automate this, so every time a new project is created or a project is updated, you can update your project of portfolio and kind of update all this visual planning board, right? So it's a little bit of a offbeat use case, but within a project or across multiple projects, you can build up your own use cases and use this. Okay, so that is really cool. Obviously, there are zoom icons, and I'll let you explore some of these buttons here. I'm not going to go into detail. The next thing that really got me excited about this is the board view. Okay, so this is where I think it connects back to work management. So today, when you have a Microsoft project schedule, whether you're using standalone, which obviously you cannot share with your team unless you send the actual file, or you have to copy it in Excel. They submit an update, you have to copy back into your schedule, or you have a status meeting. If you are into Project Online or Project Server, they have a tasks update page. Some people use it, some people don't. And it doesn't, and all of us have been guilty of treating this project schedule as something we update after we have done all the work, right? We don't use it to complete our work. We don't use it to plan our work. The board views are so famous because they help you plan your work. Okay, so now you can actually create a bucket. So you can call this sprint 1, and you can say sprint 2. Okay, and you can actually drag and drop and say categorize these. Okay, so I'm going to say this is sprint 1. I want to do this in sprint 2. I want to do this in sprint 1 again, and I can build a backlog. So the team can actually work with this board and say, okay, here is my the buckets could be anything, right? You could group it. You could do it by weeks. You could do it by a Kanban board kind of a thing, saying this week, next week, completed. You can also group by several other options. You can group by progress. So by default, you get not started, in progress, or completed. So you can complete a task right from here. So it will automatically complete the task for you. So if I go into grid, you can see that defined functional spec is actually completed. So the teams will love this. The teams can use this now as a interactive board that they can plan and say, okay, I'm going to work on this next week, or this sprint or that sprint. This is where the rubber meets the road. The project manager's view connects with what the teams want, right? There are more features coming to this. Trust me, the team is really working hard in bringing features one after the other. So I'm hoping there will be a lot more improvements as similar to Planner. Planner is much advanced than what you see in terms of boards. So I'm hoping they will bring all that back into this, and then you can use this tool to its maximum extent. Okay, so I'm very excited about this particular view. So let me take a quick pause. Wais, are there any questions on this one? We'll come back to the questions on other views a little bit later.
No specific questions. There's only one question about the boards, and that is about can these show up in Microsoft Teams?
Yes, absolutely. So now let's do something here. Okay, so I'm going to open up my Microsoft Teams where I have, let me expand this. Okay, I have created a project already, project demo 1, which is a different one. So I added this the schedule for that project right into Teams. So from a project team, they will never have to go to that web interface and do their things, right? So the schedule will show up right here. There is integration. The teams, the group that you use for this Teams can be the same group that is used for the project itself. So there it is, the board view. So you can go here, and so within Teams, you can now drag and drop. Don't forget, this is a different project, which is why you're not seeing the same task. Okay, so but you can do the same thing with other projects. So if I add a bucket and call, say, B2, and then I can start adding tasks to this. So the teams can work out of teams. Okay, I'm saying teams too many times, but that's that's what it is. Okay, all right. So hopefully that answered that question.
Okay. The next question is when you're at the in the board's view, can you filter to an individual?
Filtering options are not great as you can see at this point. Again, this is where Planner shines a lot. My hope is that they will bring all the features they have already figured out how to do it back into this. Okay, so remember again, this is version 1 of this product. They are working through their list of all the feedback that they have been getting on the user voice. Okay.
Okay, no more questions on the boards. There are other questions in general. Do you want to hold off until the end for those?
Yeah, let's hold off on those. Let's. I'm reaching the completion of the demo. So there are things you can do. So now let's talk about a little bit of reporting. Okay. Um, so I will. There are pre-built. Microsoft has released some pre-built reporting packs for Project for Web as well. So I'm just going to showcase few of those. These are just screenshots. They're not live demos. So bear with me here. Okay, so they have a set of reports. One of them is a portfolio dashboard. So this comes straight. You can download this for free and connect it to your instance, and voila, it will show up, and this dashboard is ready for you. Okay, if you have Power BI developers on your team, obviously you can modify this, customize it any way you want it. Okay, there's a portfolio dashboard. There's a portfolio timeline view that you can build. There's a report already out there that you can use. Okay, and then portfolio milestones. Resource dashboard shows resource allocations all across, and then resource assignments at an assignment level, whether things are complete or not. Task overview and a project timeline also, which is interesting, right? So and so again, these may or may not suit your work directly. I'm pretty sure there is some kind of changes you would need to make onto this. But if you're a brand new organization just venturing into this tool set, this is a great start. You got everything covered to get started. Okay. Some things I do want to highlight. I have a slide that compares features. Okay. So Project for Web, remember Planner is a task management tool. Project for Web is the new tool that we just talked about. Project Online and Project Online desktop client, the Microsoft project. Okay, so as you can see, Planner caters to mainly the project, the task management items. Okay, teams and assignments. Project for Web supports a lot more, including the grid view, dependencies, scheduling, and roadmaps. And obviously, our good old friend Microsoft Project supports a lot more. Even more, one more level granularity. Currently, there is no baseline functionality in Project for Web. That feedback has been provided to Microsoft that it is very important. Like somebody asked about the templates, that feedback has been provided. The purely the scheduling part of it. I'm sure we all want to simplify this, but we don't want it to be so oversimplified that it won't even, it looks like a toy. I don't need a toy. I need something functional, right? So there are other features that we have given feedback on as end users. You are also able to give feedback if you go to user voice. That's a site where you can go give feedback or vote on ideas that you like. So the change that Microsoft did over the last few years is they are using that very diligently. So the more votes something gets, they definitely work on it. Okay, so the power is in your hands. All right. Some resources. So all the demos and everything I showed, there's already a ton of content out there. A lot of people demoing, a lot of videos. These are links directly from Microsoft. So we'll try and share this slide deck so that you can click on those links. But even if you Google for it, you get a lot of these links anyway. Okay. So I think, oh, one last thing I wanted to cover. Let's see, 12:55. Okay, so 2 minutes. So some of you are thinking, okay, Prasanna, this is great. The schedule looks great. The board view looks great. What about all the documents? What about all the sites? What about issues? What about risks? Where is my project site? Where do I store all that stuff? Okay, so that's the beauty of this. So when you create a team, it creates a SharePoint site underneath. Okay. So if you click on files, you can actually see the files that are stored into that SharePoint site. Okay. So you can um, these are already being stored underneath the SharePoint site. So if I click on open in SharePoint, it probably will ask me to log in or whatever, but there is a SharePoint site right there. Okay. So which will take you back into your familiar territory, and then here you can create all the lists you want, surface them back up to teams. So your project team will never have to leave Teams to interact with any of this, which is not possible today. It is Microsoft is reworking all the plumbing underneath to make it all work. Okay. And then it will only get better as there is more and more native integration, but there's nothing preventing you today from starting to use these features with a little bit of tweaking here and there with little workarounds. Okay. So I just wanted to highlight that fact. Okay. You can create there are documents here. You can create notebooks. I can create more and more um, lists to capture my issues and risks. Um, Obviously, there might be policies in your in your organizations to create teams, and who can create teams and who cannot, who can create channels. Do you create a channel for every project? That's up to your organization. I mean, that's where you need to put some thought and say, okay, is this worth it? Okay. So with 3 minutes remaining, let me take the questions that are open. Awais?
Okay, we have a question from John, and he is asking about the roadmap feature. He's asking if the desktop portion of project integrates with the roadmap functionality.
No, I don't know if it is bad or good, but no, it doesn't. So roadmap, think of roadmap as purely a web. If you have used products like AHA roadmaps or any other roadmaps, it's similar to that. It's not as functional as that yet, but if you have projects and work stored in several of these apps, you can build a roadmap yourself, and it does not integrate with desktop version.
Okay, so the next question is about about project online integration with SAP, and if there's an initiative on course to solve for that.
I don't think so. There is, if I remember correctly, 2 years ago when Microsoft Flow, or maybe 3 years ago, Microsoft Flow was introduced, there was an out-of-the-box connector to SAP. But they ran, or maybe it was with Power BI, but I think there was some licensing issues with which they removed it. So right now, if you need SAP connectivity, you need to look into third-party tools. Like there are a few tools that do connectors between these two systems. If there is going to be something in future, that I don't know.
Okay, then we have another question about assigning a percentage availability for a resource. So for example, if they're not spending 100% of the day working on projects, can you assign a threshold?
You can. That is where the Power Apps come into picture. That is where you can model a little bit of, it gets into a little bit of development, custom development. Um, you could kind of arrive at a similar results with a little bit of work on the durations and efforts. But if you want to limit the amount of time somebody can be assigned, you need to get into the behind the scenes and use. So basically, this entire data is being stored in something called Common Data Service. It's a database that's not unlike a SQL Server, but much more collaborative. So that's where you would make some of these changes. As of today, um, there might be enhancements in future that will allow you to do it on the front end. Anything else, Awais?
Those are all the questions that we had so far. So I think we are good.
Awesome. So let me bring back my contact information and my beautiful picture. So yeah, I'll leave this in there. Again, if you have any questions, connect with me or feel free to send us an email, even just related to this webinar. If we have questions you did not get a chance to ask, feel free to let us know and we will try to answer those. And for sure, we are trying to make all these webinars as exciting as possible, very relevant. So good luck to everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy. Um, hopefully we'll all be out of this very soon. Back to your ways.
Hi, so let me take over the screen and I can go ahead and share the PDU codes. That's what you guys have all been waiting for. I want to be just cognizant of everybody's time. I'm sure you guys all have meetings to get to. So if you can see my screen now, you should be able to see the PDU claim code. So if you are PMP or PGMP certified, you can go to the website and claim your 1 hour of technical PDU. So please don't forget to fill out the survey that we will share and go online and register for the upcoming PMI webinar on creating project management dashboards with Tableau. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Prasanna or I, and we will reach out to you and try to answer as many questions as possible. Thank you, everybody, and stay safe.